More details have been released as to why Molly Qerim abruptly quit ESPN. And when I say abruptly quit, I mean she left work, I think it was on Monday, and she never came back.
Sports media world, Molly Qerim, I believe that's how you say her last name, she is actually going to be stepping down from First Take today, or she at the end of the year, she was going to be stepping down as the host of First Take.
An untouchable empire in sports media slammed the eject button on its crown jewel morning show queen. But that's exactly what happened. The headlines hit like lightning. Molly Qerim, the face of First Take for 10 straight years, didn't get a champagne farewell, didn't ride off into some glossy tribute. She just vanished. Her resignation dropped mid-September 2025, and inside Bristol, that date feels cursed.
I also wonder, bro, like from a human perspective, Molly was your sidekick for 10 years. We don't need to know she abruptly resigned.
Yeah.
Protect her at all costs.
Yeah.
That's my big thing, Social Trey.
I thought she was
Like,
here for the end of the year. I guess she's done now.
Remember, she didn't want it to leak because Molly ends up putting out a statement that, hey, it's unfortunately leaked. I didn't want it to, etc. But protect her at all costs.
Controversy like a broken record, but behind closed doors, nobody was buying it. Even insiders admitted the timing hit them like a sucker punch. And online, the word abrupt didn't even scratch the surface. A decade in that chair, gone in a blink like she'd never even been there.
In 3 words.
Aware, thoughtful, and passionate.
What do you have too much of?
Shoes,
Guilty pleasure.
retail therapy.
What would you do if you didn't host First Take?
I would work for a global nonprofit or host a travel.
And here's the wildest part. Not a single word from Stephen A. Smith. No shout out, no thank you, nothing. For 10 years, they shared the stage, clashed, laughed, built the show's entire chemistry. And when she walks, he stays silent. If anyone needed proof something rotten was bubbling behind the scenes, that silence was screaming louder than any headline. Describe yourself in 3 words. Aware, thoughtful, passionate. Too much of? Shoes, guilty pleasure, retail therapy. And if she wasn't hosting First Take, Molly swore she'd be running a global nonprofit or fronting a travel show. If you think people are overanalyzing her exit through social media silence, just ask Marcellus Wiley. The ex-NFL star and former ESPN host wasted no time firing up his mic and tossing fuel straight on the blaze. On his podcast, Wiley claimed the truth was money and control, plain and simple. Molly wanted more money to stay, or give me what I want and let me launch other projects.
Let's remember, wasn't it just last week Stephen A. was on air bragging about the people he stood up for to get paid and how many, Cam, I did for Shannon Sharp and I did it for this person and that person. And when I look at the abrupt, like, I'm not coming into work tomorrow. Yeah. That also is like, maybe there's pointing a finger at Stephen A. Smith.
They refused both. No sugarcoating there. According to Wiley, she was tired of the morning zoo paycheck, ready for either a fat raise or the green light to branch out. But ESPN, they balked, and the fracture with Stephen A. was already showing. Wiley even said if Smith had fought for her, the network would have coughed up the cash. Instead, Molly became instantly disposable. After years of loyalty, after carrying their top-rated show, Wiley broke it down raw. When he signs off on you, you get what you want. When he doesn't, you don't. That's how it works at ESPN. You can be the backbone of the #1 show, but without Smith's blessing, you're out-earned by analysts from programs nobody even watches. Mina Kimes, for example, pulling a bigger paycheck while Molly was left fighting for scraps. Wiley made sure the world heard that comparison loud and clear. And remember, it was just last week, Stephen A. was on air bragging about all the people he went to bat for. I did it for Shannon Sharp. I did it for this person, that person. But when it came to Molly, suddenly he's hands off. Her exit wasn't gradual. It was I'm not showing up tomorrow. The official story was all sunshine. Friends, good vibes, just life changes. But the receipts say otherwise. Even Agnes admitted the timing wasn't what we planned. Her agent dodged all comment. And meanwhile, ESPN was already rushing tryouts for her replacement. Names flying everywhere. Malika Andrews, Joy Taylor, Peter Schrager, all being floated for the hot seat. And then came whispers of Fox Sports dangling a monster deal worth millions. Not just sideline reporting either. NFL, college football, maybe even fronting studio shows. You don't get that kind of offer unless someone on the inside is tipping Fox off that the house is burning down.
Quitting right now. Both ESPN and Molly Qerim, they are trying to polish them. They're trying to make this look like an amicable divorce. And look, maybe that's true. Maybe that's true. Maybe they couldn't come to an agreement and they agreed to amicably part ways. I'm more interested in why.
And here's the twist. It wasn't just Molly refusing to mention Stephen A. Smith. Stephen himself clammed up. He opened First Take with a sugar-coated tribute, calling Molly a friend and praising her impact. But that syrupy act, Emmanuel Acho wasn't buying it. He went public with the whispers everyone else in sports media was too scared to say out loud. Don't tell us there are details, then say you're not going to share the details. Emmanuel Acho clapped back on his show. And Stephen A., he pulled his usual magician act, dropping just enough hints to keep fans guessing. First, he swore it was none of anyone's business, then claimed he didn't know everything, before admitting he had an idea why Molly walked. It was sports media's version of a shell game. You see the truth for a second, then it vanishes, only to reappear under another cup. Molly refuses to mention Stephen. Stephen plays clueless while winking like he knows the recipe. That's not random. Not in the middle of a contract fight. Not after 10 years together balancing the most dangerous tightrope in sports TV. Then, the kicker. ESPN revealed Stephen A's expanded role on Monday Night Football, the NFL's crown jewel. The man's already sitting on a $100 million mega deal, and suddenly, he's everywhere. No longer just the face of First Take, now front and center on the league's most protected broadcast, rubbing elbows with Jason Kelce, Scott Van Pelt, and the NFL's inner circle. Stephen even admitted they'll want more of me on NBA Countdown too, whatever helps the network win, and that's the message.
I'll be honest, I looked up to Stephen A. Smith for a very, very long time. He was one of the reasons why I got into sports media, but then I ended up meeting him. Wasn't the most, one of those don't meet your hero type experience. I don't know all the details, and I'm not going to tell you all the details because it's not your business. But I'm gonna be honest, it was an uncomfortable situation, and now watching him, get older, trying to go into the digital space, it can be a little uncomfortable.
1 week, Molly's negotiating freedom and pay. The next, she's gone. Meanwhile, Stephen A. multiplies on every screen. ESPN made its choice crystal clear. He's their horse for the next decade. Remove the one person standing in the way of Stephen A. becoming ESPN's all-purpose face for every league, and suddenly the network can hand the NFL anything it wants. With Stephen A. on football's biggest stage, Molly's empty chair looks less like coincidence and more like a power move. Some fans even whispered this was the price of ESPN's backroom deal-making with the league. Loyalty out, business in. The official line still drone about new opportunities and business as usual, but the real storm is just starting to break. In sports media, exits like this aren't endings.
Last night, she abruptly resigned as the host of the show. And to say that I'm quite sad about it is an understatement.
They're triggers for a power reshuffle that rewrites the whole playbook. And then came the phrase, "there's no other shoe to drop," repeated like gospel, as if to shut down speculation. But it only fueled more questions. If nothing was hiding under the surface, why did ESPN's statements read like a crisis manual? Why, after days of spinning Molly's exit as routine, did the network suddenly roll out a shiny new multi-year extension for Malika Andrews? The timing was way too neat. Andrews announced her deal on Instagram literally hours after Molly's departure. The ink barely dry. And as if that wasn't enough, ESPN instantly unveiled a 30 to 45-day carousel of guest hosts for First Take. A lineup that looked way too polished, like they'd been sitting on a secret shortlist waiting for this exact moment. Fans weren't buying ESPN's polished lines about creative freedom and fresh starts. The whispers only got louder. Had the network been quietly prepping Molly's exit all along, grooming Malika Andrews as the next franchise star while bracing for the backlash? The speed of the pivot looked way too slick to be accidental.
Don't tell us the details, then tell us you're not gonna tell us the details.
And then add on that, I don't know the details. What are you doing? What are you doing?
Like he said this, he said she abruptly resigned. That's a detail.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna say, but don't ask me the details, because I'm not gonna tell y'all the details. That's none of y'all business.
Even Burke Magnus admitted the timing wasn't what we planned, but everything after looked like autopilot. The second Molly's Instagram post hit, ESPN rolled forward like a machine. And let's be real, when somebody abruptly quits, it usually means bad blood. Normally you give notice out of respect. That one offhand line caught fire online, with fans calling it weird, shady, maybe even personal. Was it a slip of frustration or a crack that revealed an ugly power dynamic beneath the surface? Either way, it added fuel to the mounting suspicion. Critics started pointing to a long-standing pattern, ESPN shielding Stephen A. Smith, while others take the heat. Once again, their top star looked untouchable, his rise only growing, while his co-host's chair was still warm, as replacements were already in rotation. One fan summed it up perfectly. If it happened that fast, she must have already had another job lined up, and it must be big.
The other thing I thought, Steve, was when you pay Stephen A. Smith $20 million, that means, okay, well, whoever his co-host is, they're going to want an exorbitant amount of money. And so she may have been making $2.5, $3 million as the host. Well, when Stephen A. is sitting there making 20, well, maybe now she wants to make 10.
No mention, no thank you, no back and forth on socials. That silence screamed louder than any statement. Threads blew up with speculation. Was Molly forced into a clean break, or did she choose to dodge a public feud? Stephen A., meanwhile, kept his lips sealed. That story is for her to tell. Do I have an idea? Of course I do. Am I gonna share it? Number, and just like that, he poured gasoline on every theory flying around. If he knows something explosive, he's making sure the next move isn't his. But this saga isn't just about bruised egos or broken ties. It's about the gravitational pull of the NFL and ESPN's choice to orbit closer than ever to the league's demands.
You know, oftentimes when you have someone abruptly quit a job, they're not leaving on the best terms. Normally, it's polite to give your employer some kind of notice, right?
Look at the timeline. Molly out, Stephen A. instantly elevated into Monday Night Football Spotlight. Meanwhile, Fox Sports waits in the wings, dangling a multi-million-dollar offer for Molly to front NFL and college football coverage.
When I heard that it was immediate, I was like, oh, she must already have a job lined up. And the job that she has lined up must be some sort of competitor to ESPN. And so that made me, is she going to Fox Sports?
It almost feels poetic. Both Stephen's rise and Molly's next chapter tied to the same golden ticket, the NFL. For ESPN, the league isn't just another property. It's the billion-dollar engine driving their future. And when the prize is that big, even benching a loyal co-host starts looking less like betrayal and more like business. Insiders say ESPN's game isn't about journalism, chemistry, or who brings the best debates anymore.
Jason, I actually watched that whole video clip of Stephen A. Smith. I just thought it was fun. It ain't none of y'all business. It was a contract negotiation. Well, oh, that was about the money. Thanks, Stephen. Thanks for cluing it. It's always about the money, though. It's like in boxing. Why didn't this fight happen? Easy, there wasn't enough money.
It's about keeping league execs happy, filling broadcast windows, and clearing out anyone who might block the money train. And that's where Molly's story really hits. One day, she's the face of First Take, the next, gone without warning. Names like Courtney Cronin, Joy Taylor, Peter Schrager are being floated as replacements. Solid talent, sure, but none carry Molly's history or leverage.
I think we'll start with Molly Qerim. Yesterday when we talked, we knew that she was leaving, but we didn't know she was leaving like immediately, which is an indication that, man, this thing's a bit more complicated than just they couldn't settle on the money. It just seems more serious. She's off the show now.
ESPN keeps repeating, the show will survive, the debates will go on, the next star is waiting in the wings. But the truth, with Stephen A's power at an all-time high, the message to future hosts couldn't be clearer. Play nice or get replaced before your contract runs out. Stephen A even delivered a soft tribute. Molly is a friend, a co-worker, someone I leaned on as much as she leaned on me. We've been partners on this show for the last 10 years, but beneath the warm words, the numbers tell the real story. His $100 million mega contract didn't just make him the top paid face at ESPN, it made him the symbol of their new order. Money rules everything now. While Stephen locked in generational wealth and expanded influence, Molly's own requests, a raise, more creative control, were flat out denied. That's not coincidence. That's the blueprint of ESPN's power shift. The contrast couldn't be sharper. Stephen A's willingness to jump on any show, any league broadcast, and deliver whatever the bosses asked put him exactly where ESPN wanted him. always on call for their most valuable partners, ready to nod along with every NFL directive. That kind of flexibility comes with a huge price tag and a clear message. Loyalty to the league, not your colleagues, is what gets rewarded. Stephen A. even danced around it himself. The details are none of y'all business. It's not as if I know everything. It was a contract negotiation. ESPN certainly didn't want to lose her.
Molly is a friend. Molly is a co-worker. Molly is somebody that I have leaned on many occasions in the past, as she has done when it comes to me. We've been partners on the show for the last 10 years.
His words were slippery, but the subtext was loud. To some, he's living proof ESPN's priorities have permanently shifted. The network that once thrived on fiery debates now cashes in on access, star power, and league harmony above all else. Molly's abrupt disappearance and the eerie silence around her decade of contributions stands as a warning. Loyalty and fair play don't mean what they used to. Stephen's meteoric rise wasn't just about talent or chemistry. It was about ESPN remaking itself into a service arm for the country's biggest leagues. And if that meant benching the very people who helped build the brand, so be it. Whether Molly lands at FS1 or launches her own show on YouTube, one thing's clear. Her exit marks the end of an era. Molly's refusal to accept the old terms triggered an abrupt ending, a clash of values that now defines ESPN. On one side, money, league service, and billion-dollar contracts. On the other, integrity, chemistry, and a voice that wanted more. In this new order, faces will shuffle, shows will rebrand, but the truth remains, the biggest contracts decide the storylines, and everyone else is judged by that standard. For fans who remember when debates felt real, Molly and Stephen's split isn't just office drama. It's the blueprint for ESPN's future. And the biggest twist? The very thing Molly was reportedly denied, more creative control, freedom to host her own show, is exactly what Fox Sports is dangling in front of her, with millions attached. Her Instagram farewell closed with 2 words: stay tuned. If Molly really does land that new platform, with the freedom she fought for, then the real story might finally surface. Did she see backroom deals where fan debates came second to NFL politics?
And a lot of times, some of these things happen, and it's just uncomfortable to see. The details, quite frankly, are none of y'all business. But it's not as if I know all the details. There's a contract negotiation that was going on. ESPN certainly did not want to lose her, but in the end, she made.
Was her silence bought, or is she waiting for the right moment to drop her own truth? Even Stephen A. looked uneasy, dodging every detail while speculation exploded around him. And that silence might be the loudest warning yet. What's up, everybody? I'm Holly Qerim, and do you really know the real me? Let's find out. Here's the truth. ESPN is walking a razor's edge, throwing shiny new faces and endless league coverage at fans, hoping Molly Qerim's shocking departure fades before the wrong questions get asked. But her silence, it's still echoing louder than any corporate statement. And with her next move just around the corner, nobody believes this drama is finished. If Molly steps out with a tell-all or drops bombshell receipts about ESPN's ties to the NFL, then what? Will we finally see proof that billion-dollar contracts matter more than the fans or the people who built the network from scratch? So here we are, one chair empty, Stephen A. grabbing another NFL spotlight, and Molly plotting her next act. When the truth comes out, who will ESPN stand with? The fans and journalists, or the league writing the checks? Now, I want to hear from you. Drop your hottest theories in the comments, because this story is far from over. And don't just scroll past, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and share this with your crew. Because in the world of sports scandals, nothing stays buried for long.